Welcome to The Bad, the Ugly, the Good, and Healing You. I am your host, Dr. Janita Griffin, also known as Doc G. So, this is part two, you guys. Part two of Where Did My Joy Go? Rediscovering your joy in times of uncertainty. Okay, so before we get into that, I do want to kind of recap what we talked about last week, what I went over last week. So I wanted to just kind of take a moment to reflect on where we've been. Okay. So in our last episode, we talked honestly about the bad and the ugly and the parts of the journey that feels uncomfortable, heavy, and often unspoken of. We talked a lot about how the bad in that the world feels so draining. So the reality is that, we are living in a draining world. Many of us are carrying the weight of ongoing wars. We are carrying the weight of financial stress, the economic pressures. We are carrying the weight of global warming, the climate, you guys, um, anxiety related and health, constant exposure to distressing news. Every time you look on the news, um, it just seems like there's always something bad reporting, always something bad reporting. So that is very, very draining. So, not only did we talk about the bad, we talked about how we kind of go about this world navigating with all of the demands, all of the urgency. Everybody seems like they're in a hurry. Things seems to be always going fast. I mean, here it is December. I'm going to get in crisscross applesauce. Here it is December, and I feel like I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we just kind of hit summer, I just feel like we this these days are just going by so fast, and we're kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over again, and we're working really hard. I feel like we're not supposed to work hard like this. We're kind of just often just going about day to day, and many of us are existing. We're not living at all. We're just kind of doing what we have to do to get by to the next day. And I feel like that is not the right way to go. I feel like we as humanity, we as people, we need to enjoy this journey we call life. We need to start looking at um, what's in front of us, the beautiful nature. We need to start just being present with a lot of things instead of kind of, what day is it, so to speak, where we are just losing track of time because things are going by so fast. We're so overwhelmed that we are not we're not living. We also talked about how how our peace disappears, how when your peace disappear, joy often um, leads behind it quietly. We also talked about the ugly. We talked about the emotional and spiritual toll this takes on us. We talked about how suffering is not something that is dramatic or obvious, but as something that often whispers, suffering that looks like functioning without feeling, being productive, but emotionally empty. We talked a lot about how people smile on the outside while feeling spiritually exhausted in the inside. Last episode, I explored the truth that when suffering goes unprocessed, joy can begin to feel unsafe, not because we're weak, not because you're ungrateful, not because your faith isn't strong enough, but because many of us have been strong for so long that we carry these things and we go about life, and you've been strong for so long that when your joy disappears, it goes unnoticed. So last week, I'm going to also look at how I can kind of make some changes. I sent my first episode to editing, and they said it was too long, and that my podcast shouldn't be any more than 45 minutes an episode. And I see that I can talk too much, especially when I kind of get into that zone, that vibration, if you will. I can kind of go on and on and on. And I need to find a way to kind of filter that, where I am giving you guys what you need and not all the ad libs and other things. Okay. We talked about how to identify when you have lost your joy, what signs to kind of look for. You may be going through the motions without purpose or passion. You may struggle with um, feeling gratitude or being present, feeling numb. You may feel disconnected. Laughter may feel far away, and that things that used to be funny, are no longer funny for you. You can start becoming irritable, and you can isolate yourself because you don't want to be around people, um, because you're kind of not enjoying conversation or interacting with other people, if you will. Last week, I talked about also how, feeling heavy or spiritually drained, carrying a weight you can't name is a sign as well, where people may feel like they have a distant feeling from God or their purpose or their soul. I also spoke of how one of the signs were, having small, accomplishing um, achievements and tasks may not feel like an accomplishment. We often kind of go about comparing ourselves to others, and we miss the achievement and the worthiness that we have for ourselves. We look and we compare it towards others and look at it as it not being good enough, so to speak. Um, this misalignment with feeling that God has abandoned us, if you will. Um, Blessings, pass without celebration. You kind of dismiss those small wins. You may feel like you isolate yourself even when you're supposed to be connected, and we are supposed to, I feel like nobody gets anywhere alone. We are meant to be here where we can connect with one another, and we are looking at other people as a doorway to ourselves, so to speak. you know um like, I see you in me, so to speak. That's how we show our empathy. That's how we show compassion for one another, when you're able to see yourself in others, so to speak. Okay. We also talked about how one of the signs is, kind of losing hope and expectations of things. You're just kind of, again, just existing, and you're not living. You don't expect anything. It's just like, okay, so to speak. Okay. We also talked about what joy truly is. Um, Joy is not the absence of suffering, it's something deeper. From a spiritual lens, we talked about how joy is an alignment, it is connection, it is what the soul remembers even when the world forgets. And most important, when when joy is lost, so to speak, it's not just an emotional fatigue, it's often a spiritual disconnection. So we talked about the bad, we talked about the ugly. In this episode, part two, we're going to talk about the good. Okay. So today we're going to move into um, how just because the good is not that pain didn't happen, um, it's the fact that we survived it, so to speak. We're not trying to take away the fact that these events has happened to us. These events has happened and that's part of life that happens. Life, is a journey. We all have our own unique tests that we have to pass and overcome and get through and work through. You know, sure, some may suffer more than others, but essentially, it's our own path that is unique to us. Okay. And it's more about you survived that, you've worked through that, and you are standing on the other side. On the other side of it, you are experiencing um, wisdom. You have learned a lesson. I always say there's a lesson in any tragedy or mistake that has occurred. There's always something in it that you can get out of it to where it will help you to grow. And so it's not the fact that you know, experiencing the pain, it's the fact of overcoming it. It's the fact of not allowing that pain, that trauma to define you, not allowing it to um, narrate the rest of your life. I also believe that you can change the narrative of your story anytime you choose to. Just because this has happened doesn't necessarily mean that defines you. You can always change the narrative of your story. You just got to be aware and have that mindset to where, you know, you can look at what has come out of that event or um, that trauma and look at how, you can be wiser on the other side. So today, I also want to talk about understanding the disconnection and how awareness becomes the doorway back to healing. How looking at, and most people who in sessions who come to me for therapy and experience trauma, most of them don't want to revisit the trauma. It's almost as if these things are taking place, these things are going on in my life. Okay, how did we get here? You don't want to know. You don't want to do the work, or at least you don't want to face and disclose how you got here. And then we have other people who think that it's totally unrelated, meaning, things that happened during childhood has no significance or bearing on how they are living today. And truth be told, it really does. And it's your um, your job to become aware of that. And it is your job to look at how you can go about healing you. And it's your job to um, take those steps. Okay, so in the good, this is where the shift comes. The good news is that it's not that the pain didn't happen. As I said before, the good news is that pain does not get the final word in it. Joy doesn't vanish because you failed or did something wrong. It doesn't disappear because you weren't grateful or you weren't faithful enough or you weren't strong enough. More often, joy retreats to protect you. So when, oftentimes we have our joy that kind of fades away, that's saying that you have to pay attention there's something going on deep inside that you have to look at what's going on with you. When you experience emotional pain through, say, loss, trauma, or prolonged stress, your nervous system shifts into survival mode. Okay. And so in survival mode, the body and the mind stay alert, it stay guarded, um, and it prepares for the next impact. And usually in this state, joy can feel risky. Joy requires openness, it requires safety, it requires the ability to receive. So when unresolved pain and trauma is apparent, joy doesn't push forward, it steps back. It steps back. It often hides behind emotional wounds. We haven't, if you haven't talked about those emotional wounds and you're not aware of them, it just hides there and it stays dormant, all the while manifesting so many other symptoms, if you will, um, that can be behaviors that um, can cause self destruction, if you will. Okay. It can cause self destruction. Okay. So joy hides behind emotional wounds that we haven't touched. Not because they're big or um, it's too broad, but because they haven't felt safe enough to be seen. Many of us kind of learn to just kind of keep moving, keep functioning, keep carrying on without pausing long enough to kind of look at that hurt, that pain, to kind of just um, look at healing yourself. We just kind of keep going, and what happens? It just adds up. It adds up, and you have pain on top of pain on top of pain. So all of these things kind of grow, and it fosters into you becoming broken, if you will. So, that being said, unhealed trauma can quietly block our ability to receive pleasure, peace, or even rest with unhealed trauma. So, even when good things happen, the body stays tense. You're kind of like walking on eggshells. The mind stays on alert. Instead of enjoying that moment, we brace for what could go wrong next, if you will. This is why a lot of people say, some of my clients even say, I can't relax. I don't know how to rest, or even good moments feel fleeting and far in between. Um, it's not resistance, it's protection. When survival becomes the priority, joy quietly steps aside, not as punishment, not as abandonment, but as a shield. Joy says, I'll wait until it's safe to return again. And healing is the process of gently teaching the body, the mind, and the spirit to safety until safety can exist again. That's when joy returns, when safety can exist again. And it doesn't necessarily come all at once. It doesn't necessarily come loudly, but it comes softly, slowly, and honestly. So, what I want you to hold on to is losing joy is not failure, it's information, it's an invitation to heal. As I often said, and as I said before, and I'm going to do a minute message with this quote. um, Life is only as hard or as good as you think or perceive it to be. And I just want to elaborate on that a little bit. Life is only as hard or as good as you think or perceive it to be. So, and I say that to say that much of our experiences is shaped by how we think and what we focus on. So, for example, two people can go into the same situation or have an event, whereas one comes out feeling defeated and the other person comes out stronger, wiser, if you will. And it's all about perception. It's all about perception and how the person perceives the event. Hard things don't stop being hard, but the mindset determines whether we stay stuck or move forward. We are often taught that joy is something that we're supposed to maintain, that if joy disappears, we must have done something wrong or something has happened that was our fault. But truth be told, the loss of joy is not evidence of weakness, it's evidence of awareness. It's telling you that something inside has been signaling your attention, quietly and patiently waiting for you to listen. So when our joy fade, um, it's often because your inner world has been carrying more than what it can process alone. So instead of instead of collapsing, your system adapts to it. So that's not failure, that's intelligence, that's survival paired with wisdom. So in other words, struggle becomes sort of like a messenger, pointing you to places that need gentleness, that need your attention, pointing you to wounds that need acknowledgement, to parts of you that you've overlooked while you were so busy being stronger for everyone else, and while you were so busy taking care of other things, and everybody, if you will. So, healing doesn't ask you um, to force, your joy back. It invites you to tend what hurt, what hurt first. So it invites you to tend to that because joy doesn't return through pressure, joy returns through safety. So instead of asking yourself, um, what's wrong with me? Ask yourself, what inside of me needs care and intent and attention and compassion? That question alone is a step toward healing. So taking this slowly, you are not broken. You are becoming more aware, you're becoming more honest, you're becoming more in line with what your soul needs now. So think of it in that way. Think of it as changing your mindset to where you are looking at um, joy signaling you, your loss of joy signaling you to pay attention to what's deep inside of you and what's going on. That's if that's not protection, and if that's not good um, a good thing to have as humans, then what is it? Our body and our mind is a complex, amazing thing. And we need to start paying attention to it to where we can heal ourselves on our own. So, all of that being said, I do want to have you to send you to give you also some takeaways. Because healing just doesn't happen only through insight, it also happens through practice. It happens through you paying attention, you becoming aware, and you working on healing yourself. And like I said, you know, we all have the tools to heal ourselves. Sometimes you just need guidance. And I hope that I can be someone to help guide you to where you are becoming a better you and you are working through um, regaining your joy back. Okay. So this week, I want you to think about journaling. So, journaling is a great way to kind of get your thoughts out through practice. It's a great way for you to kind of just exhale, if you will. If you don't want to talk about it, journaling and writing these things down is a great way to um, get it out, if you will. So I want you to write down 3 moments, past or present, where you felt light, peaceful, and playful. Be that it's been in your childhood, be that it's been in your adulthood, but just write down 3 moments in time that you felt that you were at peace, you felt light, you felt playful. And again, joy can mean different things for different people. The way I experience joy may not be the way you interpret or experience joy. So write down 3 moments that you feel you experienced these 3 things: the playfulness, um, and joy, essentially. So I want you to remind yourself that joy has existed and can exist again. I want you to um, look at the gratitude in what you have around you. I want you to be present and be in this moment where you can look at regaining your purpose, your peace, your love for life again. So start with that. Start with writing down those 3 moments. Also, doing breath work is good. Looking at grounding yourself. Um, take 2 minutes for intentional breathing or simple grounding, okay? Where you can look at healing when your body feels safe enough to exhale. Okay, so that's very important. Looking at how to calm yourself, ground yourself, and refocus to where you are present in that moment. And it's giving your body the indication that you are safe. Okay. Also, look at reconnection practices. Um, So joy often returns quietly. So try to look at some things that used to bring you joy. Look at one thing that I love is music, as you see with my little non-dancing ways. Um, I'm a genre of everything. I love all types of music, and um, that gives me joy. So I want you to think about, some music, some things that you used to enjoy doing to where you can look at regaining your joy again. Looking at creative expression without pressure. Look at, whether it's painting, whether it's, um, you know, taking photography, whether it's, just doing some of the things that you used to enjoy doing. Look at whether or not you may enjoy those things again. Okay. Also, for those of you who may be experiencing um, issues where it's beyond just the situation, in other words, and it's not necessarily situational things that are going on, but it's something deep down inside where it can look like, feel like, and be apparent depression. Think about talking to someone. Think about talking to someone and creating a safe place with a person that you feel that you can share and talk with. You know, you can also look at a professional if you feel like you have individuals in your life who are part of the reasons as to why your joy may have faded. You know, think of talking to a professional. And it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to obtain professional help. It is okay. Nowadays, they have the telehealth format where you don't have to tell everybody your business. You can just do therapy in the comfort of your own home. And, if you don't want to, do the traditional mental health therapy, you can look in other avenues, maybe going to church, maybe talking to a pastor or a spiritual advisor. You know, the objective is to find that person that you feel safe, that you can share and talk with. Look at revisiting childhood memories, doing some self reflection, some reminiscing, maybe looking at old photos. If your trauma happened to occur during your childhood, that is okay because if you're looking at the photos, that will bring awareness as to um, an indication that you should look to getting assistance to healing that part of yourself. Okay. All right. I'm running short of time. I don't know why this time kind of goes by so fast. But I do want to wrap this part two up so that I can look at a way to where I can do the episodes and it's not going over 40 minutes and it is um, episodes where you're getting the most out of what it is that I am trying to share and advise you with. So, just to kind of just so the most important thing I want you to remember though, in this episode is that I want you to acknowledge the suffering, acknowledge the fact that um, your joy, is no longer present. Once you acknowledge that, then you can do the work. You take ownership of your choices and you take ownership of how to go about healing and working on you. Okay? I want you to think about that in such a way that you are being honest with yourself. Okay? Because at the end of the day, healing transforms suffering, it reshapes the future. So, that being said, that is the end of part two. Um, I would like to eventually put in videos. I would like to um, eventually use prompts and use things to where I could um, be able to share the message and you be able to relate and understand um, with the creativity of it all. Okay. Also, I want to hear back from you. I want to hear feedback. I want to hear, what are some things that you would like for to see me do? What are some topics you would like to see me discuss? I would like to um also, again, as I said, probably like episode 4, I would like to start having guests. That's my specialty, interviewing. So I would like to do that. I would like to have dialogue, conversation, and just so that we can look at healing together, so that we could look at how to go about healing ourselves in turn, healing humanity. We're all in this together. So we have to look at how we can, get the best of this lifetime, if you will. So, if this is a topic, joy, losing your joy, if this is something that resonated with you, or if you know others that may also could benefit from this message, this podcast, then please do like, share. Don't forget to subscribe and spread the word to subscribe. I would, again, I want to hear from you. I have a phone number, and it is 240-584-7503. Leave a message or text. That's probably the best way to um, connect with me. Um, let me know whether or not there's a particular topic you want to talk about. Let me know feedback and how I can improve. How can I change? Like I said, this tech stuff is hard for me. I wanted to have it where I had my whole body visual, but based on my laptop, this is the best I could do for right now. So hopefully, eventually, as time grows, I will also have a team, someone who can help me with all of this, and me not being quote unquote a one person show. Okay. Also, I want you to remember to purchase my calendars and my book. Um, this is my calendar 2026. And it's just a lot of healing and inspiration to get you through your year. So if you can support with that, that is great also. And again, as I said, with I discussed in episode 1, um, part 1, I discussed my book series that I am doing. It's really a spiritual battle, and I have done 2 books. Book 1 is Mankind Struggle with Depression, and book 2 is Mankind Struggle with Regrets. And I am currently working on book 3, Mankind Struggle with Addiction. And you can purchase these on my website, www.icoachme.net, and um, like, share, and subscribe. So next week topic is going to be um, it's going to be a little different, and it's going to be talking about disappointment from others. Okay, I want to also look at how I can have some personal stories where someone could share, um, or a video. Okay, so we're going to talk about dealing with disappointment. Okay, how to accept, let go, and build barriers to protect your peace. I don't know about you, but that seems to have been something that I've struggled with, especially during the pandemic, where my peace was disturbed, you know, um, my peace was disturbed. So look forward to sharing more with you guys next week on episode 3, about dealing with disappointment. I look forward to that. Okay. All right. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all trusting me and helping me, and allowing me to advise, and allowing me to um, move forward with helping you heal. I thank you. Okay. And I look forward to next week's episode. I more so look forward to where I can start getting guests and getting some interactions and possibly even going live to where I can get feedback immediate. Okay. This format and the way this is right now, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. I know you noticed with me. I'm more of a uh, conversational person and not necessarily looking at the screen and kind of like talking to myself, even though I know it's going to be viewed by others. Okay. So I thank you for tuning in and I thank you for trusting me again. Um, I thank you for um, taking this walk with me during this journey. And I look forward to spending more time and having more episodes where I can dialogue. Okay. So, that being said, love you, do great things for you, and respect you. And life is only as hard or as good as you think or perceive it to be. Okay. I am Doc G, and I am signing off. Thank you.